The winds howled through Udara village, carrying the scent of rain and dust. Overhead, thick storm clouds churned, swallowing the last traces of sunlight. Taraji, a thin girl with tired eyes, trudged along the narrow dirt path, balancing a heavy clay pot of water on her fragile shoulders. Her bare feet sank into the dry earth, each step aching from the sharp stones beneath her. The pot wobbled dangerously, but she held firm, gritting her teeth. She had made this trip 1,000 times before, up the long winding path to the river and back again. No matter how tired, no matter how hungry, she could not afford to fall. Behind her, low whispers drifted from the villagers. The poor girl, ever since the fire, she has suffered. No mother, no father, and now treated like a slave in her own family. But what can be done? It is not our place to interfere. Their pity was useless. No one helped her. No one ever would. At the entrance of a crumbling mud brick hut, Nala, her aunt, stood with arms crossed, her sharp eyes watching Taraji like a hawk. "Took you long enough. Do you think this house will clean itself while you drag your feet like a lazy goat?" Taraji barely had time to set the pot down before laughter rang out behind her. Ayana and Ade, her well-fed cousins, sat under the shade of a tree, their fine clothes unstained by work. Ayana smirked, tossing a handful of dust at Taraji's legs. "You're nothing but an orphan. A burden. You will never be anything more." Ade stepped closer, sneering. "Maybe we should sell you off to the traders. At least then you'd be worth something." Taraji kept her head down, swallowing the pain. She had learned long ago that tears wouldn't save her. But deep inside her chest, something stirred, a quiet, burning ember. One day, she would prove. The village of Udara lay silent under the silver glow of the moon. Shadows stretched long over the sleeping huts, and the night air was thick with the scent of damp earth. With careful, practiced steps, Taraji slipped past the hut's doorway, her breath held tight in her chest. If Nala woke up and caught her sneaking out, the punishment would be unbearable. But Taraji knew she had to go. She darted through the narrow paths, her feet light against the cold ground, until she reached the riverbank, the only place where she felt truly free. The water shimmered under the moonlight, rippling gently as if it, too, was listening. Taraji took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and began to sing. Her voice, soft at first, carried through the trees like a whisper in the wind. Then it rose, clear and haunting, weaving through the stillness of the night. The forest listened. The rustling leaves swayed in rhythm. Fireflies blinked in a slow, hypnotic dance. A bird that had been resting on a branch lifted its head, enchanted. Even the wind seemed to hum along. Then, a rustle in the bushes. Taraji's voice faltered, her heart hammering. From the darkness, an old woman emerged, wrapped in a heavy black cloak. Her eyes, sharp as an eagle's, gleamed under the moonlight. "Child, your voice is not ordinary. It is a gift." Taraji stepped back, fear curling in her stomach. Who are you?" The woman raised a wrinkled hand, revealing a shimmering white bead that glowed softly in the night. "Take this," she said, pressing it into Taraji's trembling palm. "It will guide you to your destiny." Before Taraji could speak, a gust of wind rushed through the trees, and the woman was gone. Only the bead remained, warm and pulsing in Taraji's hand. What had just happened? And why did it feel like her life was about to change forever? The village square buzzed with excitement. From the tiniest child to the oldest elder, Everyone was talking about the same thing, the king's grand festival. For the first time in decades, the king of Udara had opened his palace gates to the common folk. He sought the most enchanting voice in the land, promising the winner gold, fame, and a place in the royal court. The announcement spread like wildfire. By sunset, Ayana and Ade were already flaunting their fine clothes, their eyes gleaming with ambition. "This is it, Ade." Ayana clapped her hands. "We will sing before the king himself." Ade smirked, adjusting his embroidered sash. "Imagine the riches we'll have. Servants, silk robes. We'll eat roasted meat every day." The excitement stung Taraji's heart. Her voice, her one secret joy, had always been locked away in the shadows. Could this be her chance? She took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Auntie, may I go to the festival too?" Nala, who had been weaving a basket, suddenly burst into laughter, harsh and mocking. "You sing before the king? Don't make me laugh," she sneered. "Who would want to listen to an orphan's voice?" Ayana giggled. "Do you even have clothes fit for the palace?" Ade smirked. "Maybe if you polish enough floors, the king will let you be a servant." The words cut deeper than a blade. Taraji's hands trembled, her heart pounding in her chest. As they pranced off, chattering about their future riches, Taraji sat by the doorway, watching the dust settle in their wake. Tears burned her eyes. She had always been left behind, always forgotten. But then, her fingers brushed against the bead in her pocket. It pulsed warmly against her skin, as if whispering to her, "Go." A spark lit inside her. For the first time in her life, Taraji made a choice. She would not be left behind. She grabbed the only thing she owned, a simple scarf, and ran into the night. Toward the festival. Toward her destiny. The night air was thick with the scent of rain and earth as Taraji ran. Barefoot, her thin dress soaked in sweat, she pushed through the dense forest, her heart pounding like a talking drum. Above her, thunder rumbled, a deep, rolling sound that sent shivers down her spine. But she did not stop. She could already hear the distant drums and flutes from the festival, the echo of laughter and cheers. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she reached the last stretch of the journey, the grand palace gates. They towered before her, massive and golden, shining even under the stormy sky. She stepped forward, only for two guards to block her path. "No beggars allowed," one of them barked, his spear planted firmly in the ground. Taraji flinched. "Please, I just need a chance." The second guard laughed cruelly, eyeing her torn dress and mud-streaked face. "The king is looking for singers, not beggars. Go back to the gutters where you belong." Taraji's heart sank. She had come this far, and now she was being shut out? Her fingers curled into fists around the bead in her pocket. It pulsed again, warm and alive. She would not turn back. She had to find another way in. With one final glance at the laughing guards, she slipped away into the shadows. The festival was happening inside, and she was going to be there, no matter what. The festival was drawing to a glorious close. Torches flickered, casting golden light over the palace courtyard. The finest musicians, dancers, and singers had performed, each one dazzling the crowd with their talent. But the king sat unmoved on his throne. He stroked his beard, eyes weary. "Not one of them," he murmured. "Not the voice I seek." Just then, a sound drifted through the night. A soft, haunting melody, rising above the laughter, above the drums. It was unlike anything anyone had ever heard, pure, sorrowful, yet powerful. The king straightened, eyes widening. "Find that voice," he thundered. The guards rushed through the courtyard, following the sound like men under a spell. Then, from the shadows, they dragged Taraji forward. The crowd erupted in laughter. "Her!" a noblewoman scoffed. "She's nothing but a filthy beggar." Ayana and Ade grinned with cruel delight. "Sing, Orphan," Ade jeered. "Let's see your grand performance." Taraji stood before the king, drenched in rain, trembling and barefoot. She could feel their mockery like knives to her skin. But then, her fingers brushed the shimmering white bead. It pulsed, filling her with something stronger than fear. She closed her eyes and sang. Her voice rose like a river, flowing over every heart, weaving through every soul. Pain, hope, longing, strength, everything she had endured, she poured into that song. The laughter died. The musicians put down their instruments. The dancers froze mid-step. The king himself leaned forward, eyes glistening. A single tear rolled down his cheek. When Taraji finished, the world was silent. For a moment, it was as if time itself had stopped. Then, thunderous applause shook the palace. The king rose to his feet. "This is the voice I have been searching for," he declared. He turned to the nobles, his voice ringing with authority. "From this day forward, Taraji shall live in the palace. She shall be the royal singer of Udara." Gasps filled the air. Ayana and Ade stood in stunned horror. Nala collapsed to the ground, speechless. And Taraji, for the first time in her life, smiled. Her destiny had arrived. As the cheers of the crowd echoed through the palace, the king's gaze fell upon Taraji's neck. His breath caught in his throat. Dangling from a simple string was a shimmering white bead. He froze. His eyes widened in disbelief. "That bead," he whispered, stepping closer. Taraji flinched, unsure of what was happening. The king reached out, his fingers trembling as he touched the bead. "This belonged to my mother." His voice was thick with emotion. "The royal bead of blessing." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Whispers spread like wildfire. "The Queen Mother's bead," a nobleman murmured. "But she died years ago," another gasped. Taraji's heart pounded. The mysterious old woman was the king's late mother? The king took a deep breath, eyes filled with shock and reverence. "She was watching over you, child," he said softly. "She led you here." The king turned to his subjects, his voice thundering with finality. "Let it be known across the land, Taraji is the winner of this festival." The crowd erupted once more, chanting her name. But from the sidelines, Ayana and Ade screamed in protest. "No, this isn't fair." Ayana wailed. "She's just a worthless orphan." Ade snarled. "We deserve the prize, not her." The king's expression darkened. He stepped toward them, his presence towering, his voice sharp as a blade. "You rejected her when she had nothing. Now she stands above you." The weight of his words crushed them. Nala collapsed to her knees, too stunned to speak. For the first time, Taraji was not the one in the dirt. She was the one standing tall. She had won, and her new life was just beginning. Time passed. The winds of fate had shifted. Taraji, once a poor, mistreated orphan, now lived in the palace, draped in fine robes, her voice celebrated across the land. But for Nala, Ayana, and Ade, life took a different turn. The villagers, who once turned a blind eye to their cruelty, now whispered behind their backs. "See how the mighty have fallen," an elder muttered. Their once grand home crumbled, the walls cracked and empty. Their riches vanished. The golden chariot glided through the village streets, its wheels rolling over the very ground Taraji once walked barefoot. Dressed in flowing royal robes, her head held high, she gazed out at the people who once ignored her pain. Then she saw them. Nala, Ayana, Ade, huddled in the dust, their clothes tattered, their faces hollow from hunger. At the sight of her, they scrambled to their feet, falling to their knees. Tears streaked their faces. "Taraji, please." Ayana sobbed. "Forgive us." Ade pleaded, his voice raw with regret. Nala, once so proud, now clutched the hem of her torn wrapper, her body trembling. "We were wrong. So wrong." The air was heavy with silence. The villagers stopped to watch. Would Taraji punish them? Would she shun them as they had shunned her? She stepped down from her chariot, her golden sandals touching the dirt. Looking at them, she felt nothing. No hatred, no anger, only a deep, quiet understanding. "I do not hate you," she said, her voice calm, yet firm. "But now you know that no one stays low forever." Tears welled in their eyes. Taraji turned, stepping back into her chariot. With a gentle nod to the driver, she rode away, stronger, wiser, and unbreakable. The past no longer held her. Her future was hers alone. Never mistreat the weak, for the hands of fate may one day lift them above you. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories. Turn on your notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.